This segment is brought to you by Jigmaster Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com and use promo code PNF20 and save 20% off your next jig order today.
Welcome to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. This is the final cast segment with your hosts Brad Hicks and Josh Eldridge, where we cast our final opinions on all products, good and bad. Welcome to the final cast. Welcome everybody back to the final cast on the Paddle and Fin Network. I'm your host Josh, and I'm joined with
Brad Hicks.
Mr. Brad Hicks, and tonight we have an epic guest. We have John Thomas from YakGadget. John, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey guys, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem, man. We've been waiting for a little while to do this episode, and Brad and I were talking, and we were like, hey, man, let's go ahead and get John on, and let's talk about the cool products that we've been seeing him come out with. And Brad just installed the, what is it called? The Y plate anchor or something like that, Brad?
Yeah.
What was it? Yeah.
Adjustable Y plate anchor system.
Yeah, dude, that thing's sick. I got to see it the day he was putting it in. I happened to drive by his house after being on the water for a little bit. And he's like, dude, come check out the YakGadget shallow anchor system. And I was like, dude, that doesn't look like what I thought. And he's like, he got the different one. And I was like, that's pretty sweet. That's a sweet idea. So we'll get into some product talk here in a little bit. But first, John, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and your title with YakGadget, how you got into kayak fishing and all that kind of jazz.
Sure, no problem. Well, I'm John Thomas. I'm owner of YakGadget. We've been in existence for a little bit under 2 years, probably a little bit over a year and a half right now. And I got into fishing like most kids did. They went with their dad. My dad had a bass boat when I was a kid, and that was one of the few activities that we really liked to do together. And my dad was quite a bit older than me. There was a big generational age gap. He grew up in the Depression. So we really, he grew up I think he was born in 33. So my dad actually fought in the Korean War. So there was quite an age gap. I think he had me when he was nearly 50. He was in his mid 40s. So there was this, we never, even growing up, always clicked because I just couldn't identify with his experience, but fishing just brought us together. And so it was one of the things that ever since I was really little, knee-high to a grasshopper, I'd love to go out with Dad on the bass boat. So I kind of got away from fishing for a while because I worked as a graphic designer for 25 years, and I worked all over the country and wasn't able to really fish as much. And when I moved back to Tennessee, I started just bank fishing, and I started seeing some people out on kayaks, and I kind of had this to a bass boat, but to be honest, I just started dealing with all the rigmarole that it took to get that boat operable. And so I started looking into this kayak thing, and I saw a used Jackson Cuda on Facebook, and I bought it about 5.5, almost 6 years ago, and started getting on the water, and I was just hooked immediately, and just really got into it. And as I got into it more, I started wishing I had products that either weren't in existence yet or they were super expensive. A micro power pole for me when I was first getting into it was $800 or $700 for that thing. And I really love the concept of it, and it looked like a killer product, and it is a killer product. But I was looking at it going, man, there's got to be something else that's more affordable that kind of does the same thing. And I felt that way with a lot of things. I felt oh, why isn't there a behind the seat bag, or why isn't there a crate that I can access stuff on the water? So YakGadget was kind of born out of things that I kind of felt like I really wanted to have for myself while I was on the water. And the more I got into fishing from a kayak, the more I started getting ideas and certain things. And in 2018 kind of came around the beginning, January of that year. I went to a fishing expo, and there was a dealer there that were actually friends of mine. I had bought some stuff from them before, and they had a Water's Big Fish 120. It just come out, and I think I was the first in Nashville to buy one. And I bought it, and I looked at that pod area, and I thought, man, I think I can get a motor in there because it's but it's an awesome boat, but it's really heavy. So I got it out on the water, and I kind of looked at it, and I was like, my buddy and me kind of thought, hey, we could get a motor in there, and we kind of took the pod and we took a water snake motor and cut it and fit it inside the pod, and we said, oh man, that could be a cool business idea. And we kind of came up with this thing called the prop pod, and it was kind of out there circulating for a while. We sold a few, but I was really controlled by, supply chains and things like that. And I went to ICAST that year of 2018 to kind of meet with some of the other manufacturers, and didn't necessarily get a cold response, but it was kind of like, they were kind of like, who's this guy kind of thing, And I was trying to get wholesale deals for different components to build this prop pod. And a good friend of mine was also at ICAST, and I was getting a little frustrated because it was harder than I thought it was going to be. And so I was like, and it was really, and I don't hold any ill will towards anyway. It was just kind of, the kayak world, the kayak industry in general, it's a different type of community, and you kind of have to prove yourself in order to be accepted. And they just didn't know me yet. And so my buddy was there, and I called him on the phone, and he was like, hey, meet me over at this little cafe inside of ICAST, these little eating areas. And I met him over there, and I had a napkin. And I was like, you know what? Instead of me trying to build a motor system and go through all these supply chains, why don't I just build a mount that goes inside of the pod area? And why don't I just, I've got connections to certain materials to be able to do that. So why don't I just do that? And he was like, hey, if you're going to do that, then, I'm definitely going to support that. And so that's where YakGadget was born right then and there at ICAST of 2018.
Huh. That's cool.
And when I got home, I basically took that sketch and I went to the computer and I used CAD software, things like that, and I started drafting up the first pod mount and also a rear mount. And the rear mount, became the quick mount now, and we have different variations of that MK that goes on different boats now. But that's kind of where it all started. And once I kind of saw the feedback of how that was being received, that kind of led me into making other things. Because I kind of felt like early on that, there are other people making mounts. I'm not the only one. And how can I distinguish myself differently than those guys? Because there's a lot of great guys out there making good products. So what can I bring to the game, in other words, that's going to kind of set me apart? And that just led me down this whole road of discovery as far as different items that I wish I had while I was out on the water. That led to the anchor system. Last year came out with the Y plate version that was just a one piece, if you will, that went across the back. And then I made one that went into the power pole inserts. And then that led eventually to the adjustable series of different things. And now I also have a Hobie version as well. So that's led to a whole discovery of products for the anchor system. And then the deep water plate that I created last winter, and that gives you the option of making it a two-way system. And then I was also really intrigued by storage, because I looked at the different storage options out there, and I said, hey, there's got to, I have an idea. I had back surgery like about 15 years ago, and I'm kind of limited with my mobility when I'm out on the water to turn my body. And I thought, man, it'd be great to have a crate that has stuff that's leaning towards you and that you can do a straight reach back. And so that's where I came up with the Low Pro crate. And I took that to to my first consumer show in January, and people were kind of, I won't say blown away, but they were really taken aback by it, because it just looked so different than some of the other crates on the market, and it gave me a lot of positive feedback, and that led to the XD crate, which is the extra wide crate. So I now have two versions of that crate, and I'm telling you, man, the kayak community is so awesome, because I learned so much at the consumer shows because they give you awesome feedback. I mean, I had Hobie guys coming up to me going, hey, and this needs to be wider for the 3700 trays. Now, I'm not like you guys. Like I'm a fisherman. I love it. I'm down to do it. I'm not as good as you guys, but I will say this: I was fishing with 3600 trays for the longest time when I got into it. That's what was out when I got into it. So I never, there's no reason for me to change. But I found out about the 3700 tray and everyone's obsession with it, and that kind of led to the kind of reimagining of the crate to fit 3700 trays horizontally, and then changing the I should say, to also be longer, so that even on that thinner crate, you can still get 30 or long ways, if you will. So that kind of, everything has kind of been linked to something else, and now we're going into making track mounted pieces now, track mounted accessories, getting into our own line, if you will. And so we're kind of, I won't say all over the place, but we're kind of all things kayak accessories. And we didn't just want to stay at mounts, and we didn't want to just stay at anchors. And so now, and that led to the tray. We have our own low pro tray now that the Hobie guys love. And also Bonafide guys are now buying it as well because it's a deeper tray and you can mount stuff to it. And everything that we kind of created to this point is all about multifunctional use. And so that's kind of, everything is continual evolution. That's kind of the way that I kind of see things, and I'm always changing things. I'm always, our quick mount MK mount, as simple as that mount is, I probably evolved it about 8 times to get it to the point where it's at now. And now I have a new evolution of it coming out later this year that you guys are going to love, because it solves an age-old problem that we've had with these rear mounts. So, and then I struck a relationship with Bixby last year in June. And I worked directly with Human, who's the CEO of that company. He's an amazing guy. And I went to ICAST last year and presented with him in his booth. And then we had our own booth at Paddlesports Retailer Show last year. We were planning on doing the same thing this year, but we got interrupted with COVID. I actually had a booth at Canoacopia, and I had my booth set up, and 10 minutes later they canceled it because the governor pretty much announced right then and there that no groups over 250 people. Wow. So Darren Bush at Rutabaga announced that, hey, we unfortunately we got to cancel the show, and I had flown there that day. That's when that was the same day that they shut down everything. They shut down the NCAA tournament. They shut down the NBA, the NHL. I think Chicago announced they weren't going to do St. Patrick's Day parade. So I was like at the airport. Yeah, I was at the airport. I was going, I don't know what's going to happen. So,
John, didn't we tell you about Canoacopia when we were at the show, and you kind of decided to go last minute?
You totally did. In fact, you and the guy that does what's the name, Raptor, the Raptor product. So that guy's my buddy, because we worked, like, at that point. I think the Cincinnati show was my last show that I'd worked, and I had worked like 7 shows, like in as many weeks. So I was seeing him at every show that I was at. He was at Columbus. He was at East Tennessee. So me and him became buddies. And he told me, you guys told me about Canoacopia, and then he told me, he's like, yeah, we got a booth there too. And there might be a last Darren, and actually he had one that somebody canceled out at, and then I jumped in there, and unfortunately it didn't happen. But man, I'm definitely going to be at it next year, and I've already kind of they've been really great, and so we're gonna be working with them. And and they also promote the Big Gear Show, which used to be the Paddle Sports Retailer Show in Salt Lake, and they've already announced now that that's going to be put off to 2021. But I will be in Salt Lake next year at that show as well, and it's going to be a little bit later. It's going to be in August now instead of this year was going to be the week after ICAST, which I thought, man, logistically that's going to be tough for a lot of other people to participate. So now it's going to be almost a full month after, and that's going to allow the way Paddle Sports Retailer Show was before, and that's going to allow some of the other guys to participate. Because if you set up a big booth, you're a manufacturer, and you set up at ICAST, it's going to be tough for you to break down and then get your stuff across the country and set up there. So they reworked those logistics a bit, and I think that's going to work really well. It sucks it's not going to be this year because I was really looking forward to presenting there. I had a good time at the Paddle Sports Show last year, and this big gear show is going to be a new evolution. It's actually, they're going to open the last 2 days up to so that's pretty different because ICAST is just an industry only type show, and I've even heard rumors that there could possibly be a consumer component with that at some point. I just think that the consumer component to me is like what it's all about. I mean, one thing I've learned about these shows that I worked this year is the consumers really drive it for me. I mean, and first of all, I enjoy it immensely, and secondly, it helps me get our brand out, and third, I also get to make fantastic connections like with you guys and with a lot of other dealers that I've also now have in my stable of dealers now. So the consumer shows are really key for me, and next year I plan on working 20 if we have them.
Yeah,
it was a good time for sure.
Yeah, you got a cool success story, man. I like it.
It's all because of you guys and guys like and everyone that I've met in the industry. One thing I've realized in life, like I own my own graphic design business for 15 years, and you don't do it alone. And the generosity in this industry has just been incredible. And a lot of those guys that I told you about earlier at ICAST 2018, I now work directly with a lot of those manufacturers, and they've been incredible to me, and they've been really accepting of what we're trying to do because I guess they've seen the proof in the pudding now. I hope, and they've seen like, oh, these guys are creating products that help us sell more boats and to make our boats more functional for users, and I have this weird philosophy too, and I've even expressed it to some of the guys, some of the manufacturers is, you guys aren't necessarily making kayaks, you're making platforms. And it's an open platform. It needs to be an open platform for your users. So when they buy your boat, they can scale with it.
Yeah.
And thus keep it longer or turn it into something else. Our new tagline for our company is a venture your way. And I really feel like that's fitting because you can now take a boat that maybe wasn't intended for a motor, have storage that it didn't have before, or add a track mounted piece that makes it completely different than it was. So give the bottom line consumer a lot of choice and to make their platform and create it their way. And we're also expanding beyond the regular boat lines that we know and love. But I've got people that have Ascend boats or Pelicans. They're now coming to us and asking us, hey, can we put some of your gear on our stuff? And now we've got lines that are reaching out to those guys because those are huge markets on their own. So
yeah,
all things back and boats too. Yeah, sorry, I get a little talkative. So
it's all good. We're actually having a little bit of connectivity issues. So I don't know if you guys wanted to switch off on the video or not. You want to try switching off video? Either one? Anybody?
I can.
Yeah, I can too.
Okay.
Whatever. You want me to?
Yeah, let's try it.
All right. Hold up.
All right. So the other thing that stuck out to me was that you said you were a graphic designer. How much does that play into you designing your own products?
Yeah, so I think it plays a lot into it. I was a graphic designer and an illustrator for a long, long time, and one thing that we learned in graphic design school and also in the industry is bringing your own illustrative style or your own design style to a specific project. And with these products, I started studying product design because they're very interrelated. And so I took a lot of things that I learned from design school and kind of applied them to try to make these products look as stylish as possible, but also meeting form with function, and make sure that you don't lose the function, because a lot of people will over design things or they will over engineer things. And if it's over engineered, it's ugly as sin. And if it's over designed, then it's not functional enough, right?
Yeah.
So I think one thing I've learned in the design industry is that balance, right? To bring in nice, sexy design, as sexy as possible, but still make it as functional and well built as it can possibly be, and marry those two worlds. And so me using illustration and some other things that I've kind of other skills that I've kind of gathered over the years, I've been able to kind of, I feel like, blend those two worlds pretty well together, because I certainly didn't start out as a product designer, and the whole thing, to be honest, when I first got into this, was kind of daunting at first, and then I started learning CNC and I started learning 3D, and then I realized that I had more of an aptitude than I thought, and that I kind of fit in with it, and then I started being able to kind of merge. And what's kind of funny too is I got into sculpture. Like, I went to art school and did all that stuff and never really studied sculpture or 3D much. And I got into sculpting back in like 2013 and 14, and really found that I could think three-dimensionally, and more than I ever realized. Because when you're a graphic designer, you're mainly doing things 2D. Even with web design, which I've done since 1996, I was part of the whole .com boom. I'd worked all over the country. I actually worked for ABC Television and Walt Disney Internet Group in Los Angeles for a few years. So I had done some 3D like Flash stuff, like games and stuff like that, but never on the level of actually like making a three-dimensional product until I started sculpting about 6 years ago. And that's kind of led into my understanding of like drawing in 3D. And then that kind of led to CAD, which now is led to what I'm doing now. So, all things are connected. I kind of learned that from Leonardo da Vinci, who is like one of my all-time heroes, who was also an incredible inventor, by the way, not just an artist, but I mean, some of the things that we have now is because of him. And even in the boating world, I mean, this guy was just an incredible thinker. In 2006, I got to go to London and see an exhibit of his actual sketchbook on display, like his sketches.
That's cool.
And that really inspired me to start kind of thinking more like in terms of product design and function, even as early as that. So, everything's kind of connected, and it's a strange path that brought me this way, but it's been really fun so far.
Right.
Awesome.
So what would you attribute, or what would you identify as YakGadget's most popular product to date?
So when we first came out, like with the mounts, the one thing that I wanted to create was also a way to control the steering. And so I looked at some options of what was on the market, and there really wasn't much. There was maybe one other item, and I was like, oh, I can make a control steering arm for foot controlled steering, and even a pole for pole control. So, give users the option. And that became like my most popular seller for a long time, until the crate. And so far, this crate has kind of exploded and has become its own animal. And since January, I've probably sold close to 300 of them.
Oh.
And that doesn't even include the tray, which was born from the crate, and the trays have also been really popular. So right now it's kind of been like, and then the anchor system has really caught on fire lately as well. So I'd say right now our most popular items is the anchoring and the crate storage. Those have been like the two things, and we kind of created a seat bag, and that's starting to catch on as well. But so far in popularity, as of late, it's been the crate. But since last June, it's probably been the anchor system. So they're kind of tied right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say I attribute that growth with the crate, especially when you made the bigger version of it.
Yeah.
Kind of came in. You caught a perfect storm with the release of the Plano Edge Box.
Yes.
You know, and everybody's getting a 3700 size,
Yeah.
and you know, like for a long time, you know, I still rock 3600s. I try to keep the amount of lures that I'm carrying to a minimum, and that's mainly because like Brad and I are both like mainly river guys. So the
Yeah.
amount of weight that we want to tote around and drag, you know, our kayaks with, we try to keep it to a minimum. Because I mean, the kayaks that we are using, I mean, the Bonafide is not a light boat. I mean, it's light in comparison to pedal drives, but still, when you're trying to go up some of these river banks, you're like, dude, it's muddy, we're dragging, it's just a pain in the butt. So
Yeah.
But with the Plano Edge Box, everybody's really been jumping on board because of the style of the box, the fact that it's ultra clear like it is, it's easy identifiable. You can carry a lot in a thin profile, but it still has that not bulkiness as far as the width, but the overall size of the box is still large, just not the depth of it. And everybody's big gripe, especially using like black packs and stuff like that, was you'd have to take out, like, I run like both 36 and 30, I have a couple 37s, and I'd have to take out like a couple boxes to be able to get that box out. And, you know, when you're kayak fishing, it's always inevitable you drop stuff, so it's always in the back of your mind like, man, where am I going to set this box? I don't want to knock it over and forget about it or whatever. And so I know when Brian put his in, dude, he's so stoked about it. He's like, dude, like, it's so much easier now, like, you know, that crate just makes it so much more simple. So that's awesome. It's awesome that you literally was able to release that and start selling it right when this big spike and the need of it happened, you know. So that's pretty cool, man. It's great timing.
Yeah, I wish I could say I planned it, but I totally did not. I mean, I think that's where, if I had not gone to the consumer shows, I probably wouldn't have been able to hit that timing. And this is one of the reasons why outreach is just critical, especially for a startup like myself. Any way you can outreach to the public. We do it a lot with our social media as well. It's just, customer feedback is critical, and one voice is as important as 1,000 for me. And that's one of the things that I learned from social media. It's like, if one person has a problem, it's like, treat it like 10,000 people are screaming, because and I think that's because it's important, but it's also awesome too. It's stressful sometimes, but it's also awesome too, because they're telling you what they want. They're telling you what problems they're having. They're a built-in focus group, and so that's why those consumer shows, I think, led to that box being created the way that it's been now, and now with the Plano, because I had to go back and look at 3700s and look at all the different variations of 3700s out on the market as well, and say, okay, I'm not just going to make it to fit it horizontally, but I'm going to give it a little bit of padding, because there's some boxes that are thicker, there's some boxes that are thinner, like that new Plano box, like the Edge, and then there's some that are even a little bit longer than the 3700 size, that because 3700 is right at about 14 inches, so there's some that are like 14 and a half, 14.75, even 15. So I wanted to go at least 15 to 15 and a quarter to accommodate that as well. So, and the thing too, I think with the crate as well, is I think we just attacked it differently. And also, I also said too, if I'm going to make an XD, I'm going to give you more rod holders. Hey, I'm going to look at the competitors. They're giving you maybe 3 or 4 rod holders. I'm going to give you 6.
Right.
I love it.
My partner looked at me like I was nuts. He was like, dude, are you sure? And I'm like, look, man, absolutely. Because the thing is, and there are some challenges with that too, because like with the Bonafides, they can house the XD. However, they're still not wide enough to have rod holders on the side and have that extra width as well. So we're actually coming up with some add-ons that will help you solve that problem now. Like I'm including some extra riser feet that will rise that crate up to where you can still have your rod holders on the side.
Well, hey, John.
Man, I've already got it. It's coming out.
Here's an idea too, and this is to play off like Brad and myself, because we are river guys, and this may, I don't know if this is a possibility, if it would help solve that solution, or if it would just be the risers, but to maybe just have holes drilled where you can change the angle of those rod holders to where it's aiming backwards, like everybody used to do with PVC and stuff like that. You know, in a sense, like your molded in rod holders that were included in the boat. Maybe it would just be a change of angle that would solve that problem with those, because it's the ones that are on the sides, right? That kind of is the hang up, because Jackson's notorious for fairly narrow and like a weird shaped rear tank well. Like my black pack didn't fit in the Coosa HD very well. I mean, it did, but it still sat up slightly in the back. But that wasn't even having rod holders, man. That was just a crate. So.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this real quick to kind of tackle that a little bit. So that's why I made the crate out of the material that I make it out of. It's actually 3/8 inch thick, so it's a very strong box. It's a little heavier, but you can drill into it. And so it gives you the opportunity to make that storage platform the way that you want to. So yes, you can mount those rod holders at an angle, which is great for river fishing with the low-hanging trees and things like that. Mm-hmm. So, and you can also put, I've got customers that mounted mighty mounts to it, camera booms to it. We've got some additional add-on accessories that we're going to have that you can drill to it and add to it as well. I really created that as a base, a jumping off point for a larger storage platform solution where you can really, again, just like our other things, you can make it your own. And so that's why I went with that thicker material. It's more costly. I probably don't make as much profit off of it as I do maybe some other things, but I looked at that and said that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make because it's giving the users the ultimate platform and make it optional for them to grow and scale it, just like with some of our other things that we offer. So, and multifunctional, again, putting a camera boom on it, or, I love the Crescent SGP Plus. I own one, and having that crate on there now makes it a really great fishing platform, but it's not like other kayaks where I have a lot of track room to put other accessories, so I mount them to my crate. Whether it's my camera mount or whether it's an extra, like a bazooka rod holder where I can then control the angle when I'm in those low-hanging trees. So I really built it as a jumping off point for you to really take it and make it your own. That's why the riser feet are coming out for it. I've got some other storage options as well. A hog trough solution. So I've got a few different things coming out for that crate. So again, that evolution never stops.
So awesome. I see a lot of people in the Bonafide group. I'm pretty active in there. They'll post this crate and then they'll say, "Oh, the other rod holder don't fit on one side." I always tell them, the way I have my crate set up, I'm gonna have both. I'm gonna have two rod holders on the left side, not one on each side. Because that helps me with casting. I cast from the right side, so I'm not going to get tangled in that rod. Yeah. If you move that other rod holder to the same side and have two on one side and four across the back, you don't have any issues with it fitting at all.
That's right. And that's the thing. It's like, but I wanted to leave some of that up to the user to figure out how they wanted to style it for their own needs. I don't ever want to make a product and do the thinking completely and because that shuts it down for the user. It's like, okay, you got to do it this way or it's not going to work. That limits who I can sell to, because everyone, the one thing I've learned about the kayak community, especially from the DIY aspect of the community, we've got some incredible thinkers, You got a lot of guys that are hardworking. Whether they're fabricators, construction guys that are do-it-yourselfers that know how to do things and make things. And so I wanted to also make this for those guys where, hey, take my crate and go to town and then take pictures of it, get those pictures back to me so I can post them on the site and show people like what you've done with it. It's kind of like a Lego approach, if you will. Like, I'm a big fan of Legos, and what's great about Legos is you can take it and make it the way you want it and easily build things. So I wanted to make things kind of componentized and also where you can scale it and add things to it, and then offer some additional add-ons that you can put on it and turn it into something else. Like the risers will now solve that problem if you want to rock, rod holder. If you want to put 8 on there, you can,
Yeah.
So that's where, and again, that's all coming from feedback that we've gotten. But so far, the overall like feedback on the crate has been like way beyond my expectations. And it's really, I think we're on to something. I think we've caught on to a really cool movement.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you said about like having people use your crate and not having them like do it the way that you had it designed. Having them customize it however they want. That's the one reason why I didn't go with the flambeau crate. I didn't like the rod holders and how like everything fit together like that.
Yeah.
Yours is a lot more customizable, and it's the best crate I've used so far by far. And the other thing, and the other thing I like about it is I don't know if you've seen the Calcoast battle box. It's a terminal tackle box.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the thickness of 2 tackle boxes put together. It fits perfectly inside that crate with no issues.
That's another happy accident. Like, I would love to sit there and say, oh, we got one of those and we measured it to go for that. I knew the way that I designed it, I wanted to kind of give you dividers, but I didn't want to dictate like how you placed your stuff within that box. So I wanted to make it as open as possible. And when I originally created the crate, by the way, it was at the Paddle Sports Retailer Show last year, but it was made in a different material, and it was just sitting to the side, and very few people saw it. But I had 4 or 5 dividers in it, and I designed it to be componentized where you could remove one and kind of move one around. And I may go back to that at some point, but for now, it's like the 2 dividers evenly spaced out has worked really, really well. And obviously there'll be changes and again evolutions to it as we move forth. And I know Jason Ricketts, who's been a really good friend. He also works with me, manages our pro team at YakGadget as well. You guys know Ricketts really well. Awesome dude, and he's given me a lot of great information as well of how to take the crate into a different direction. And I've been meeting with some other manufacturers as well, and so we're always gonna improve it and take it to the next level. I see this kind of being a marathon with this product. I don't think it's going to be a trend type thing. I think it's going to be I want it to be a crucial component of it. Yeah, so I was basically just saying we're just going to continue to make the product better but I think where we're at right now with it is a really good, for 2020, I think we're at a really good place with it, but by midsummer we're going to have some cool add-ons for it.
I'm excited for that, man. I like the sound of the riser thing too, because I have the issue of the bungees in the back on the Bonafide getting stuck right there where the bungees from the cover hook in.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling rising that up a little bit will solve that issue, no problem.
Yeah, 100%. We've done some early tests. I have a SS107 in the shop, and so I've done some early tests with it. It's going to solve it 100%. And and again, that just shows you where it can go, because I did not make it for the Bonafide boat originally. I made it for the Hobie and the native guys, because they had the huge whales in the back. And then I sat it in my 107 and said, this fits. Because I intended the regular low pro to fit the Bonafide, because our regular low pro will fit it with rod holders on the side. You got tons of clearance. I mean, you can still put the 3700s in there, long ways like you do the black pack, but I had intended, the XD to be more for, the boats with the huge wheel wells, but I mean, not wheel wells, I'm sorry, the storage wells in the back. But what I'm finding now is guys are buying this crate and they're somehow putting on other boats that, I didn't, originally plan on being used on. And I think that's awesome. Again, that shows you this thing is kind of organic. It takes on a life on its own. And if you don't pay attention to that, then you kind of get passed over time, and I think that's what's happened with some of the products that are out there. And so I'm constantly monitoring all of the different user groups on Facebook, and now there's Jackson users that are using the XD. There's other people, and I love it because the Blue Sky guys are using it because it's open, perfect for them. They have no limits, and gosh, they could put a whole storage chest on the back if they want it. And I've had some guys ask me, hey, can you make one that's like twice as wide? and I'm like, I don't think I'm going to make the low pro horse trough just yet, but.
Well, let's get into something that I was really impressed with, something that I really caught interest in, and that was the shallow water anchor system. With kayak fishing, we've seen it evolve so much in the past, 3 years with the pedal drive market exploding. There's people dropping, a couple grand, putting, Torqeedos on, and now we've got the, bow mounted trolley motor movement. And it's been one thing after another. And one of those that took off was when Power Pole introduced the micro anchor system. Which I've gotten a chance to actually use one of those. I did a few weeks ago when I did my first round against Brian in the bracket tournament, and I went fishing with a buddy of mine, and he's like, hey dude, it was super windy day, and he has a Hobie PA14. He's like, I'm going to be able to handle the wind way better than you, dude. And at the time I didn't install my anchor system in yet. I have an anchor wizard for deep water. And we were going to be in water that literally at its deepest point was like 6 feet deep. And so I got a chance to use one of those, and they're awesome, man. It's just when you're getting into this stuff, you do realize that there's some pretty steep, price tags on this stuff, especially when it's battery operated and whatnot. And, you're looking at that micro power pole, and once everything is said and done and you've bought the actual mounting system or, everything like that, and the pole and the battery and, all the stuff it comes to, you're looking around $800 or so, give or take a little bit. And so when I stumbled across your booth and we took a look, they were like, dude, check this out. And I'm like, dude, that's a fraction of the cost of what, a power pole is. And, you and I talked about it. I'm like, so what's your honest opinion? Does it work just as well? And you said, at the time you were like, yeah, everybody that I've gotten feedback from is really, really liking it. And for those who don't know, his shallow water system is manually operated. So you have a tether, like a paracord style rope that's attached to the bottom of the pole itself, and it has like a little lever pulley system that helps you raise and lower it. And you can cleat it, or like Brad's getting ready to with his Y1. He's getting ready to actually hook it onto an anchor wizard, so it makes it even easier. And what's cool with that, Brad, I was just sitting there thinking, I'm like, dude, that's an excessive amount of rope. But I'm like, well, if he ever needs to replace it, he's just got a spool of paracord at his disposal, so let's get into that a little bit, because I know you've got some variations to it. Obviously the one that I had seen at the time was the one that just bolted right into the same pattern as the micro
Right.
anchor. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about the variations that you guys have come up with that.
Sure. So, as you guys well know, that this product isn't a new concept. There were other people that had made similar products, and when I got into it, I knew that, and I really wanted to make sure that if we're going to make this, it needed to be original and different. It needed to be able to stand apart, because that's already been done. So why make it like someone else's? So what I try to do, I looked early on in the game to some things that I could point out that really led me down the path. And one is I wanted one with a solid construction. I kind of felt like using a hollowed box or something like that. I really wanted to make it more solid, thus making it even more lightweight and more portable. You could make a smaller area with a tighter fit if you want it, and then I got into modular plates, and that's the other thing. Like, I wanted to be able to scale this. I wanted to, just like the low pro crate, I wanted to be able to componentize it and add pieces to it, and let the users take it into a different direction if they want it, which we do have some additional components coming out. That adjustable Y plate, I'm calling it the Adjustaflex because it is designed to adjust and basically be flexible to whatever boat that you have, but also it's modular, so you could take the right side and replace it with another anchor system and have two anchors. You could easily upgrade it to a double pole. You could I have an Anchor Wizard mounting plate coming out for it, so you could have the Anchor Wizard on one side, you could have our pole system on the other. So I wanted to create like a platform of flexibility with the product. Obviously, there were other products already on the market, so I wanted to go, okay, how can we differentiate ourselves with this piece? The other thing I wanted to do too is make the pulley be external, not internal, and it gives you better rigging options. And I also, like, on the base plate itself is thick enough to where you can mount another pulley and change the direction of the rope and then rig it however you need it. We just sold a few of these to the Kaku customers that has the new Zulu, and if you know anything about that boat, the rear of that boat has like multiple power pole. They have I think 5 power pole mounts on the back of it, and it fans out to like a 45-degree angle. And Kevin Hawkins of Kaku, by the way, I think he's done a masterful job because he's made a platform where you can easily put stuff on it. It's like the dream rigging solution. That Zulu is a very impressive boat. I have no affiliation with them. I like the craft and how it's designed. But with the 45-degree with ours, because where the rope's coming out, if you're trying to pull straight, you're going to hang up a lot. So what I did was, create, that base plate where you can mount another pulley. By the way, we've also changed from a Yak Attack pulleys that we were using with the system now to a block cheek piece. That's a solid piece, and I like it even better now because it's allowing the platform to be more flexible. So you can mount a block cheek piece there at an angle and now redirect that rope to where you're still getting that ease of pull, but now you can rig this thing where it can go all the way or wrap around your boat if you want. So I wanted to create systems that would allow you to be flexible enough to do that, and I think we did that with the power pole. That was kind of our first one. Well, the Y plate was kind of the first, but the power pole connection came out maybe a week after, and the power pole one kind of grew on its own, and I was probably selling them at first to the Kaku market because they also like Bonafide. They have the inserts on the back with a flat mounting system, and then of course I changed the shape of it to fit Jackson because Jackson, all the 2018 or 2019 models has it kind of sunken in on the back for the Kusas and the Mayflies and the big rigs. And so I really wanted to use that mushroom shape to really custom fit that area so that it would go in. So it's kind of I probably have evolved that power pole one probably 6 or 7 times just to get it to where it's at now. And then with the Y plate, I discovered quickly that I had made it for vibes because the shop that I'm semi-attached to now, they were a vibe dealer, and so I had vibes there, and so I made the Y plate, and then little did I know that actually perfectly fit the fill freeze. So all the lures, the Mokins, it fit those boats perfectly as well. So I said, oh, we'll go with these two for now. You know, we'll go with the power pole one, we'll go with the Y plate, and then I started having tons of requests. Hey, can I put it on my big fish? Hey, can I put up on my wilderness systems, on my attack or on my ride? Can I put it on, can I put it on a, now I'm getting a lot of requests for new canoe. And by the way, we got some new canoe stuff coming out. So if you're a new canoe fan, you own that boat, never fear, YakGadget's here. We're coming out with that stuff. But I started listening to those guys and I started looking at it going, okay, I think I need to take this Y plate in a different direction. So I literally one morning walked in the shop and took one of the, unibody Y plates. I went over to the saw and I just cut it in half. And then I went from there and realized that I could make a system where it could be flexible and adjust to whatever size the boat. And I think right now, I think it can expand up to almost about 38 inches, I think, which pretty much covers most of the boats out there. I know with Native, with the Titan, I've got a little bit more work to do, so I'm going to have a larger plate for that particular boat, an expander plate for that, because that's probably one of the widest ones on the market. But besides, I guess the new canoe, I think in the center of the boat is probably like 41 inches on the front tier. But and the Hobies, of course. But with the Hobies, I have, we have other solutions for that. So it's really like I've become a nerd about all these different boats, and I kind of know like measurements almost in my head of all these different boats now. But that's been the fun of it too. But getting back to the anchor system itself, I think what we kind of figured out with some of our other products, like the Low Pro Crate as well, is I wanted to make it multifunctional. And actually on Christmas Eve, I was in the shop and my wife called me, asked me when I was going to be home because, it's Christmas Eve. And I was like, well, I just come up with this idea for a deep water plate to kind of make it like as if Anchor Wizard and Micro Power Pole had a baby, where you could put, a regular anchor on the back if you wanted to work deep water and use the shallow anchor when you wanted to work shallow. In winter fishing, you tend to fish a little deeper. The fish go down deeper. So I didn't want to limit the user's option. So I had that piece on the back and added that loop and made it standard, just made it included on every one that's sold. And it's gotten a lot of really good feedback, a lot of good reviews. Some guys, the river guys, use it as a drag chain. They put their drag chain on the back with their pole anchor. And Brad, by the way, you've actually inspired me to take it a step further. So I'm working on now developing a collar weight system that goes around the bottom of the pole and locks into our anchor collar there. And that was the other part of this anchor system that I wanted to be different as well. Was I wanted because as you said before, Josh, about how it links to the pole. On some older systems, you almost had to drill a hole in your pole and run a bolt through it. I didn't want to do that because how can you easily take it off, right? So I created these little collars, and the collar goes around the bottom of the pole, has an insert in it with an eye bolt, and then that eye bolt can just tighten, hand tight and lock into the anchor pole itself, and now you can adjust the height. So if you're fishing in like heavy grass mat, you can set that pole, you can set that collar up the pole a little bit more to lock in that grass mat. If you're fishing hard bottom, you can set it lower. And now with these weights that I'm kind of developed, I've already kind of made a prototype, and I'm going to be testing the crap out of it really soon. but going out on the water and adding another 2 pounds to the bottom, then it becomes almost a regular anchor and a pole at the same time. And now that helps you, like, actually, there's a great lake here in Tennessee connected to Percy Priest, which is solid rock. And I want to go out, 15 mile an hour, 16 mile an hour winds, and design this system to where you're not going to scooch on rock. So that's my new goal. And the pole systems, by the way, you can't drive a pole through rock, even with the micro power pole. There's movement on rock, but I think if we add these different pieces to it, put some rubber feet on the end of the pole, like there's all kinds of things that we got working in the works, and so I'm releasing it kind of on your. I usually don't discuss ideas a lot on a podcast, but we're kind of first to market with a lot of this anyway, so this is kind of what we do. But we have a lot of those things coming out. Again, just bringing more add-ons, more options, more components to make it a better system. People fish differently. There's guys that will go out and they fish nothing but oyster beds. There's guys that goes out and they fish nothing but hard bottom. There's guys that fish nothing but grass mat or very muddy bottom, where a pole like this works good on its own. I made a video recently about 2 weeks ago. I was out on my test lake that's all rock bottom, and it was about 16 mile an hour winds, and I was actually like surprised how well it was holding me. It was holding me very, very stable with the adjustable Y plate at that. But I did notice, some scooch. You're going to have that. Unless I'm King Arthur, there's no way to drive something through rock. Yeah. So I think, now adding extra weights to it, I think it will just make it a better system. So it's just stuff like that. Again, we listen to all the customer feedback, but the overwhelming majority of all of our users has been they've all said it's been a game changer for them. They've all said that it's given them the ability to fish more, which was why I came up with, which is why I released the product. I wanted to make something that gives you more casts. You're not having to adjust. You're not having to pick your paddle up, especially if you're not using a motor. If you go out and you're trying to fish in winds with just one anchor and a paddle, you're going to be adjusting about 90% of the time. So I wanted to give users the ability to easily drop something that's going to lock them in and give them ultimately more cast on a bank, give them more of an opportunity to lock themselves in position and set them up to to either go against the current or with the current, depending on the conditions they want to fish in, which ultimately puts them on fish better. And so that's been kind of where it's been. That's a very long-winded answer, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yep. I am really pumped you're coming out with those weighted collars on the bottom. I just had that idea. I was like, man, that'd be awesome. Help that pole slide down a little bit more. But I wanted to kind of go over my setup here real quick, because I have the adjustable Y plate system, and I love it. It's my favorite thing I've added on my kayak by far. And so what I'm doing is I have another Anchor Wizard coming in the mail. I'm having that ran to the back on the left side, attached to the bottom of the pole, so I can pull it up and lower it pretty quick. And then on my right side, I'm going to have another Anchor Wizard running to the front with another anchor. And what I did, I tested it this past weekend. I dropped my pole, dropped the anchor off the front, and I was probably in about 16 to 20 mile an hour winds as well, like you mentioned.
Yep.
I did not move one single inch.
Yep.
With both of those anchors. And I loved it, because I'm more of a shallow fisherman guy, so being able to like dissect all these areas like I like to do, it was perfect.
Yeah, and again, that's kind of, I'm like you. I mainly all the fish that I caught last year was in less than 5 feet of water. I mean, I am a shallow water guy. I guess that's the Tennessee side of me. We have a lot of great banks, and just, the banks are always open here, even on Sundays. And so we have great opportunities, whether it's lakes or even some of our flowing rivers like the Harpeth. There's a lot of great shallow water opportunity for largemouth and smallmouth for that matter. So I've always been a shallow guy. And so for me, that I have found that product has really helped me be able to be on the fish better and be able. But again, I'm glad you brought up the point about the secondary anchor. If you're going to be in any type of wind or current, you need more than one way to lock your boat down. Even Chad Hoover himself said that. I remember watching the video. Gosh, when was this? It might have been like in 2017, maybe, where he had like a 3-pound lead ball that he had running off the front handle of his Bonafide, and then on the back he had a micro power pole. But using those two things in conjunction with and I think he had his anchor wizard set up for the front one for the 3-pound lead ball off the front, and when I saw that, I was like, that makes all the sense in the world. And so we now have some things coming out for the front side, for not just the rear side, but having a combo package even that we're going to have, where you can buy some stuff that'll mount up front and some stuff that mounts in the back for shallow water and even some deep water options. So again, we never stop. We're always looking to better not only the mousetrap, but listen to all the different fishing experiences and come up with as many options as possible. I'll put it this way: this time last year, we maybe had 3 or 4 products. That's
crazy.
To this point this year, we have over 55. Very few companies have gone from 4 to 55 in a year. But again, people that are affiliated with me are like, dude, you're crazy. You're making all this stuff. And I'm like, well, there's several reasons for that. But the main reason for me is the more options we can give you to shop with us, the more you're going to feel confident in our ability to meet your needs. And so for me, the more that I can offer our users, I feel like I sleep better at night. I feel like we're doing the right thing. Some people would say that's a mistake. You're making too many products. But to me, the only thing better than too many SKUs is more SKUs. And so I'm always coming out with new products. And that's been our philosophy. And I'm going to continue that. And we learn from everything that we do, everything that we release, and we listen to everyone. We consider everyone to be important in terms of, there's so much you can listen to, but we really do a good job of listening to the feedback. The feedback is where it's at for the customers who have it, and I think we've done a good job of that, and I think we've taken those things that have been said and we've applied them to just only continuing to improve the products that we have.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up here, John. I do appreciate you coming on. For those of listeners out there that may not be familiar with YakGadget, go check out their website, man. They have a lot of cool products. We just touched base on a few of them tonight. But like John said, they have over 50, so we would be here for hours and hours. But there's a lot of cool things out there, and it's like you mentioned before, there's a lot of DIY guys out there who take the YakGadget products and they make it their own. Just as something as simple as the shallow water anchor. I remember there was a gentleman I ran across a post, and he you put one of those anchors on, regardless if it's a micro power pole or not, and you kind of take away that rear handle system. Yeah. And he was able to add I want to say yak gear handles and like right into the bolt slots, and it fit perfect. And it was so cool. Yeah, it was perfect. And
it was so cool. It was so cool to see that. It was like, that's what I'm talking about right there. It's like, take it and then make it fit your needs. So now he has his handles. He doesn't lose his handles. It was genius. Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. But so check out YakGadget online. It's just YakGadget.com, correct, John?
Yep. www.yakgadget.com. Our Facebook is also YakGadget. Our Instagram is also YakGadget. Our YouTube channel, I think, might be YakGadget JT. because I created it myself. I may change that to just YakGadget at some point. And we also got, like I said, our track mounted accessories coming out. We have a whole line. We've got at least 4 products that's going to be released like I want to say in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Cool.
So yeah, so we're kind of reimagining some things that's already out on the market and just offering some new options to them. Couple of products I've had a lot of early feedback of people saying there's just not enough options on some of these items. So that's what we tried to do, and so we've got that coming out. We got more storage stuff coming. We have a lower version of the tray, so it'll fit some of the other boats that, we originally made it for the Hobies and the high seat boats, like Bonafide Hobies, the ones that sit up high. Now we've got one that's going to be probably about 1.5 to 2 inches high, so it could fit on a lot of other craft that have that area that's not being utilized. We've got a new version of our bag coming out. Our rear seat bag has done really well. We have another option, a few other options for that coming too. So yeah, just stay tuned, man. We always got new stuff kicking out.
All right. Well, John, I appreciate you taking the time and coming and talk with us. Brad, you got any other pressing questions or anything?
No, I'm just going to say John has me fired up. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight.
Brad's going to have YakGadget dreams.
Yeah,
buddy.
or nightmares, depending on how you get it.
John's going to be like, Brad, will you stop messaging me with all these ideas, man? Let me do my job.
That's the fun part, It's talking with guys. It's like that's been one of the cool, most rewarding parts of this, is to be able to establish the relationships that I've made so far. And I also want to say this too, really quick. Your podcast, man, has just been. I've been following it for quite a while. I've been a huge fan of it, and man, this is like what makes the industry fun for me, is coming on and talking with guys like you that have been doing this for quite a while now. It's been gathering a great following, but on top of that, a lot of knowledgeable fishermen, and have a lot of great guys associated. I know Jimmy Skinner is also a friend of mine that I met at the Lebanon, Tennessee Fishing Expo. Hook One is one of my dealers, and I was in their booth with him for a weekend, and what a great guy he is. And so it's fantastic to see him on here, and just an awesome guy. Can't say enough good things about him. So it's just a great community, and I'm very proud to be a part of it, and I'm really thankful for you guys for having me on the show, and also accepting me in that community.
Not a problem, man. It's what it's about. We always touch on this in regards to a lot of our podcasts. Our hosts all have that same belief that, our main goal is to share knowledge, share knowledge of our experiences, whether we're new or we've been around for a while. I'm a firm believer that I can take, a little bit of something from everybody that I ever run into or talk to, and be able to benefit from it. And that was one reason I remember Brian saying that he started the pod, was that information was sort of limited, and so our biggest goal here is just to get the word out. And if we can help small companies or big companies or any company like that is going to help with the kayak fishing community, or any angler that might be new or old and that has a question, or anything, that's basically what it comes down to. Like, we share experiences with one another and help grow the sport, and help everybody stay friendly towards each other, and just keep helping each other.
Yep, exactly. It's I think one of our early taglines was united we fish, and that's what I really wanted to end up being, is develop a community where we're all fishing for the same purpose, because we love it. And we love being on the water. We dream about being on the water. We dream about hooking in through our PB whenever we, whatever we're going for. I mean, heck, I have personal bests in several species, and I've been getting into catfishing lately. And so I've got some products that we've already considered for the catfishing, because that world is starting to explode. And also snakehead. We got some stuff that, and one product that hasn't been talked about a lot, but our yak well, is, that's been a product that Will Mansfield, a KBF fisherman, he also has a Sunshine Trail as well down in Florida. He was co-designer with me on that product. Ben Adrian is another really great guy that's part of our pro team now. That I worked with, the Ben Adrian front side mount that we sell for the Maverick 120 that he's fished out of for a long time. So I've gotten to establish some awesome relationships with great fishermen as well. And again, that's just what this is about. I mean, it's the community. And again, I'm not ever going to say that I have the exclusivity rights on what's a good idea. It's like, if somebody, wants to work with me to produce a product together, I have no problem with that. We co-produce it together and we both make money off of it if we can. It's like it's one of those things where I've just learned that you can't do anything alone. And you guys have seen it with your podcast and how much it's grown over the last few months too, is you can't do it alone. And there are a lot of generous people out there wanting to help you, wanting to are just good-hearted, generally good people that just want to support a movement that they can get behind and believe in. And we've been overwhelmed by the support that we've gotten. And, we're going to continue to try to do the right things to hopefully, continue to earn that trust that we've built so far. So I really appreciate you guys a lot.
Not a problem, man. Brad and I and, Nate and Ricketts, and we all, came by the booth, and we all gained a lot of respect for what you guys are doing over there. So we just want to, take a time, say thank you, and give you an opportunity to come on the pod and showcase what you guys are doing. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and finish up. Brad, you good?
I'm good, man.
All right. Well, John, thank you for taking the time. Also, thank you to all of our listeners for joining us with another episode of the Final Cast. We will see you guys next week. Peace out.
See ya.
Y'all take care.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in Northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. TRC Covers, protect your investment. Catch Products, shout out to Catch Products. Go to catchproducts.com and put the Paddle and Fin logo directly on your catch board. Shout out to Jig Masters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com, use promo code PNF20 and save 20% on all your jig and tackle needs.